Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Bleeding Burnt Orange. This is edition number 27 here, previewing Texas versus Washington for that Monday matchup, the Monday night matchup. A little bit too late, in my opinion, but I don't care as a Texas fan. I'm not going to complain. I am wearing sunglasses again today, guys. I had eye surgery this morning, so I'm going to wear these today. Hopefully, by the Sunday morning, because that's when that post game will take place, they will be gone. I will not have to use them anymore. But today we are rocking the shades. Not trying to copy Uncle Lou at all, but again, eye surgery makes this possible tonight, where I do get to honor, I guess, Uncle Lou. It makes sense. We beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, get to honor him tonight. So hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. It really helps out the channel and what we're trying to grow here. I really appreciate you guys being here week in, week out. Again, hit that like button, subscribe. Go over to the SEC channel on Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Hit that like button and subscribe. Go over to the Big 12 channel, hit that like button, subscribe. And of course, the Mark Rogers Voice of College Football channel, hit that like button and subscribe. It is what we got Thursday, we got Friday, we got Saturday, Sunday. So 4.5 days till game day. I am stoked, guys. I cannot wait to watch this football game. I think college football teeters the line of anticipation and torture more than any other sport. Us Texas fans have had to wait a month for this game. That is a very long time to wait. Definitely an anticipated matchup for us Husky or for our Texas fandom and Husky fandom, but it's going to be worth it. I think it's going to be a very good game. We broke down 2 weeks ago Washington versus Texas. Texas defense versus Washington's offense. Today, we're going to break down the Texas offense versus the Washington defense. And then we're also going to bring that together. You're going to get my prediction. I think it's going to be a good game. I think I'm going to be pretty close to what Vegas thinks about this game. And I don't think it's going to be quite as high scoring as some things. I want to clear some things up because some people have said very dumb stuff about this game that I just totally disagree with on both sides of the ball, and in both fandom and in preview and preview shows that I've watched. People that you can tell, no offense, don't really watch college football, or if they do, they don't watch Texas or Washington. So we'll talk about that as well. So please hit that like button, please subscribe, and obviously keep those comments flooding in. I love you guys. I love to talk to content. So let's jump over to the comments, see what you guys have to say. Jackson, what's up, Longhorn Nation? Yep, the sunglasses look again. Jackson, I had eye surgery this morning, so the sunglasses will stay on for tonight's show, 8:30 a.m., and I'm doing a show for you guys here tonight. Like I said, unless something like serious happens, I'm always going to be here. It was a minor surgery. I'm all good. No need to worry if you're going to ask those questions. Um, like I said, I think this is going to be a hell of a matchup. You have the second best team in the country versus the third best team in the country. By every metric or most metrics, Washington probably has the best offense in the country. I think Texas's secondary has been talked about, and we might as well get into that. And it's kind of been disrespected. Texas secondary is not great. I'll give you that. But when it comes down to yards per play, guys, we talked about this again when we did Washington versus Texas defense. They're like 29th in the country in yards per play allowed passing. That's not bad. Overall, yes, I believe they're 90 something in the country when it comes to yards per game allowed passing. But when it comes to yards per play, which in my opinion is a more important stat, because if you're going to throw for 400 yards, but you throw it 50 times, that's good. It's not like elite. If you throw it 30 times and throw for 400 yards, that's very good. So that's what I'm saying. Numbers matter per play more than they do overall. And when you can't run versus this Texas defense, guess what you have to do? You have to throw the ball. So they're going to be a little bit inflated. And I think that's the same for Washington. Their run defense isn't great. They're not Texas where it's elite, where I think Texas has the best front four in the country. But I think it's a good upper end unit of college football, the Washington run defense. So I think that's been mistaken in this game. Also, whenever I hear people talk about Texas pass defense, I never hear them talk about Washington's. They're basically the same. Washington actually gives up more yards per game, but yards per play, they're basically the same. I think Texas is 25th, or no, sorry, Washington is 25th per yards per pass attempt given up, and Washington is Washington 25th, Texas is 29th. So they're very similar, guys. This isn't um a battle of Washington's got a great secondary, Texas has a bad one. I think they're both average secondaries to slightly above average. I think when we're fully healthy, we're slightly above average. And I think Washington, when they're fully healthy, is slightly above average. It's going to hurt in the first half. We're going to have to survive the first half because our safety, Derek Williams, who has played great freshman safety, is out for the first half. So you're going to Michael Taft, and Jaron Thompson and Keaton Crawford, hopefully not too much, but in spots, is going to have to survive the first half. And when we get into key matchups and keys to the game, we'll talk about what I think will happen in those spots and what I find to be important, especially. I think there's going to be some things I mentioned that you may have not heard from other people, some players in this game that I think are going to play a key role. And I think it's going to be a very fun and interesting game. I had surgery this morning, sir, on my eye. I cannot take my sunglasses off. Ed, can Washington beat Alabama? Wow, we were just totally jumping. Can Washington beat Texas? So, no. Alabama has the best secondary in the country, and you're not going to be able to run on Bama. That is a terrible matchup for Washington. I think Washington has a god-awful matchup in the second round, no matter who they play, compared to Texas, whereas I think Texas has a very good matchup because think about it, guys. Texas can stop the run and force your quarterback to beat you. Jalen Milroe and J.J. McCarthy are nowhere near the passers Michael Penix is. And let me say this. If J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix only threw the ball 20 times per game, I think they're about equal. The problem is I've seen Michael Penix throw the ball 40 times per game and win games and be successful. I have yet to see that from J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy is very much protected in the offense he plays in. Michael Penix exposes every weakness that you see week in and week out because of the offense he plays in, and he has played very well, even though that happens. So could they be equal in talent to a certain point? Yes. But when it comes to if J.J. McCarthy, which I think Texas would force Michigan to do, which is throw 30, 35 times a game, I think you would see multiple turnovers from J.J. McCarthy, where you might not see that in this game for Michael Penix. Do you have x-ray vision now? No, I don't. Actually, my vision's worse. I had a cyst in my eyelid removed, and it is pretty bad right now. Tell you what, if someone wants to throw in a super chat, I'll show you. It's not terrible. It's not as bad as it was. But it basically looks like I have a black eye. I'm hoping by tomorrow we'll see some progress, but for now the sunglasses stay on. LFG, thank you. Likes number 6. Please hit that like button, subscribe down below. It really helps out. I agree. I think McCarthy is a game manager, and people take that to an extent of where that's a bad thing. He executes the offense at a high level, but I think a great example of this, guys, is what we just saw on Monday Night Football. If you guys watch the pros, you see Brock Purdy, who I think is the ultimate game manager. I think if you wanted a game manager in today's NFL, you'd want Brock Purdy. But when it comes down to when people shut down that 1 and 2 option and force you to read and progress through your make progressions very quickly, you see people struggle. And you saw Brock Purdy struggle. I think the same thing would happen with J.J. McCarthy in a game. But the thing is, he hasn't had to do that because they run the ball so well and they're so effective in their in what they run on offense. So it really hasn't affected them. And if they can do that versus Alabama, they can beat Alabama. I don't think that game's going to be a blowout. I don't think either of these games are blowouts. I think they're both very good games. I think they're going to be somewhat polar opposites, even though I don't think the Texas versus Washington game is going to be as high scoring as some people think. Some people have said 40s. I don't see that. I don't think Michigan and Alabama is going to be the first one to 17 either. I think first one to 24, and I think the first one to probably 30 to 35 points for Texas ends up winning that game. So that's what I believe. I think McCarthy can win a pressure game for Michigan, but maybe not versus Alabama. Exactly. I agree with that. Alabama's front seven is very good. I don't think it's as good as Michigan's or Texas's. I think they have the third best front seven in this playoff. But their back end, their back four is the best. It's not close. You have 2 NFL cornerbacks in Terrion Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry, guys that are very good. There's a real possibility if you put Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold and you just place them on every team, that both of them would definitely start for Michigan or start for Washington and Texas. I don't think they would 100% start for Michigan. I think Will Johnson would probably start over Terrion Arnold, but Kool-Aid McKinstry is starting anywhere you want him to. He's the number 1 cornerback on any of the teams out of the top 4. Toughen up. I'm not saying it hurts. Dude, they numbed me. It didn't work. I failed everything. I think I'm pretty tough, but I just don't, the lights plus this, not going to do it. Main key for Washington to win and main key for Texas to win. Okay, so we're going to throw a little stats in, and then I will answer that question, B-Bean. So the Texas offense, 13th in the country at 36.3 points per game, 479 point yards per game, number 9 in the country. And we'll talk about what I think is a discrepancy. Texas should score more points with that amount of yardage. Yards per play, 13th in the country, 6.5 yards per play. And this is where Texas struggle, guys. Third down, 38.51%. That's 65th in the country. and then red zone scoring 80%, 90th in the country. They only score points on 80% of the red zone opportunities. That is not good enough, guys. That has to be better. I've said this the whole year. If you can just get that to like the 50th mark, the 60th mark, I think you can win the national championship. They're not winning the national championship if that keeps up in this playoff. They're just not. They may not even win this game if that keeps up in the, versus Washington. 4.9 yards per play rushing. That's 24th in the country. 189.1 yards per game rushing. That's 23rd in the country. So basically, they're top 25 in rush yards per play and rush yards per game. And then completion percentage wise, 67.82%. That is 12th in the country. And then 286.8 yards per game, 287 if you want to round up. That is 14th in the country. Now, this is a discrepancy. Washington is a top, or I think they were third in the country in sack rate. So they're very good at protecting the quarterback. That's why they got the Joe Moore Award for the offensive line. Their QB was sacked 5.47% of the time. That is 53rd in the country for Texas. Is that great? No. Is it good enough? I think it is. Part of the reason, guys, too, Michael Penix is a better athlete than Quinn Ewers. Texas actually pressures the quarterback better than Washington does. The problem is, like I said, Penix is a better athlete. He can extend plays. Quinn Ewers really can't unless it's wide open for him. He can get 2 to 3 yards, but if you're asking him to break multiple tackles in the backfield or hit a hole, it's just not going to work. John, for everyone joining late, say it one more time. I had surgery on my right eye, so I'll be wearing these sunglasses. But yeah, I know, wear my sunglasses at night. So overall, Texas, elite offense, third down and red zone, guys. This is where we have struggled the whole year. You cannot be 65th in the country on third down, and you can't be 90th in red zone scoring and win a national championship. Can they win this game? Possibly. They're not winning a national championship unless we get better in those areas. I expect with the month off, you'll see in this game at least, we'll be better in those areas because I bet Sark dials up stuff Washington has not seen. I also think you're going to see him unload the playbook. The second game, if we do get there in the national championship, that worries me more. And this game, it doesn't worry me so much because a month off is a long time to design plays for the red zone and third down. So we'll jump over to Washington's defense. And this Washington defense, and really none of the statistical categories is very good, guys. It really surprised me. I thought they'd be a little bit better. They allow 23.6 points per game. That's 46 in the country. 396.9 yards allowed. That is 76 in the country. Not very good. 5.4 yards per play, which is 59th in the country. They allow a third down conversion rate of 40.1%. That's 76 in the country. And then team score 84.09% of the time. That is 17th in the country. So they are pretty good in the red zone. Everywhere else in between the 20s, you're going to get yards. So that's going to be a key stat. We're 90th in red zone scoring. They're 17th. So that is their strong suit. Rush yards per play, 4.3 yards per rush. That's number 69 in the country. 133.8 yards per game allowed in rushing. That is 130th in the country, guys. That is not good. 59.6% completion percentage. That's 47th in the country. 263 yards per game allowed. That is 121st in the country. And then a 3.52% sack rate. That is 130th in the country. So they don't really get much pressure. They don't really get to the quarterback. To me, this team relies on bend, don't break philosophies. And that could work for us. We're not good in the red zone. That does worry me. But overall, they're going to give up yards. They're going to give up chunk plays. They have over 30 plays of 30 yards or more given up on the season as well. So they give up the big play. To me, that is all I need to hear from Steve Sarkisian, because you struggle in the red zone. Please attack this team deep. Please do not move. I know you like to move east and west, and I have no issue with that early on, especially if the run game's not going, but attack them consistently deep. I want 7 to 8 shot plays in this game. Yet have to hit 50% of them. If we have 8 shot plays, you need to hit 4 of them. If you hit 4 of them, I think that gives Texas a really good opportunity. I think it's going to be a very interesting game. It's a very interesting chess match, both of these matchups. So we'll get into the key matchups because that's what BB wanted to hear. So we'll talk about that. DK, I went out in my Lambo and grabbed my sunglasses. Okay. No, Washington wouldn't beat Bama in the Sugar Bowl. Wouldn't beat Bama in the Sugar Bowl. Okay. Yes, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Hope you recover quickly, Matthew. And yeah, first getting here, I thought you were just a huge Corey Hart fan. No. No. Oh, and I appreciate that a lot. I should recover quickly. It was a minor surgery. It took 15 minutes. Just some bothersome stuff with the eye, which is, I don't know if anyone has ever had what I had. I've yet to run into someone. I've seen YouTube videos because that's what I do when I have something. I YouTube it, watch surgeries about it, everything. Basically, clamped your eye, clip it back, slice it open, cauterize it. That's what happened. So the eyelid, let me say that, not the eye, the eyelid. But yeah, thank you for that, Mysterio. So key matchups, we'll talk about that because BB did want to know. I think Ja'Tavion Sanders is a gigantic mismatch in this game. I think Ja'Tavion Sanders is the second best tight end in college football. And guess what? Now he's the first because Brock Bowers has decided to opt out. So 39 receptions, 607 yards, 15.6 yards per catch. He is a big play threat, 2 touchdowns. And I will say this. I do like Washington's linebackers. I'm going to absolutely butcher this guy's name, but he's a very good player. Edufan Ulafashia, or Ulafashio, I believe. Very good player. Going to play in the NFL. He's from Alaska. Read an article about him. Good player, good person. I hope he does well in life, but he may struggle in this game in coverage. I will say the strong suit for this Washington team is their safeties. I like Dominique Hampton and Mikel Easton. Their cornerbacks can be had. Jabbar Muhammad is a transfer from Oklahoma State. I do like him. I think he'll be able to play Xavier Worthy pretty well. I think he matches up very well, actually, with Xavier Worthy. Now, if A.D. Mitchell is lined up on Jamar Muhammad, I love that matchup all day, every day. Jamar Muhammad is a much better guy and speedy, shifty wide receivers than he is versus 6'4" freak like A.D. Mitchell. I honestly think if anyone's going to have a huge game for Texas at wide receiver, it's going to be Ja'Tavion Sanders or A.D. Mitchell. These are big guys and they're big play threats, and I think they offer a little bit more resistance in the passing game. Or stopping the resistance of Washington in the passing game because they're not speed guys. Washington, to me, I think will do well. They did pretty well versus Troy Franklin. He played pretty well in those 2 games, but not great. And I think Troy Franklin is a much better comparison to Xavier Worthy than he is an A.D. Mitchell or Ja'Tavion Sanders. And I think the safeties and linebackers are going to have their hands full, especially versus Ja'Tavion Sanders. And the opposite cornerback, Elijah Jackson, better be ready to play because he's probably going to see A.D. Mitchell a lot in this game. A.D. Mitchell has caught a touchdown at every one of the college football playoff games he's played in. I fully expect him to catch a touchdown in this game. I fully expect him to have a big game, and I fully expect Ja'Tavion Sanders to have a big game. I think Xavier Worthy, if you're going to see him have a good game, it's going to be in punt return and kick return. I don't think he's going to have a gigantic game. I just don't. I think Washington learned their lesson last year when he was dropping all types of passes. If he would have caught the passes he had with his broken hand and all, he would have had over 150 yards receiving. I just don't allow or see Washington allowing him to have a game like that. I think it's going to be A.D. Mitchell and Ja'Tavion Sanders. And then a guy that no one talks about is Jordan Whittington. I think Washington is going to play a lot of zone. I think they will mix man in there because you have to. But Jordan Whittington is spectacular in zone coverage. That man finds the opening. He has a very good connection, especially with Quinn Ewers on 3rd down. I fully expect him to be the chain mover on 3rd and medium situations in this game. And Texas, you have to stay out of 3rd and long. They are not good converting on 3rd down. It was kind of a aberration versus Oklahoma State. We were very good at converting on 3rd down, and they were long 3rd downs. You cannot do that in this game. So Ja'Tavion Sanders is the matchup to me to watch for, and also Jordan Whittington. I also threw in A.D. Mitchell just because I think he'll catch a touchdown. I don't think he'll have a lot of yards, but guys that are going to move chains, and I think you're going to be seeing them constantly, is Ja'Tavion Sanders and Jordan Whittington. I really think those guys are going to have field days versus this Washington defense, especially in zone coverage, or Ja'Tavion Sanders' case, if you see a linebacker or safety line up man to man, you have to go to that matchup. You have to go to that matchup. The guy is a freak at the tight end position. Next up, it's going to be the running game. Guys, I fully believe that Washington is going to win this game. It is going to be because it is a shootout. If Texas is going to win this game, you have to control the line of scrimmage and you have to control clock. They have slightly more weapons than we do. They do. Whatever you want to say as a Texas fan, they have slightly better weapons. Not a lot better, slightly better. It's like an A- to a B+ weapon-wise, but we are better in the trenches. I know they won the Joe Moore Award, but I will take Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat at the defensive line position versus that offensive line all day, every day. And our offensive line versus their defensive line, I like some of their players. One of their defensive ends is a very good player. His name escapes me right now. He's a transfer. He's a good player. He's going to play in the NFL. But we have to be able to run the ball and control clock a little bit. I think a fast start here for Texas is a big thing as well, because if this game is close throughout, that allows Washington to play their offense and keeps the playbook open. If you make Washington one-dimensional, I know their passing game is special, but it's very hard to throw the ball 45 to 50 times and win a football game. You have to force them to do that. If Michael Penix is able to throw this ball 30 to 35 times and they're able to rush it, 20 to 25 times and somewhat successfully, like 4 yards per carry, Washington's going to win this football game, and they're probably going to win it pretty easily because they're very dynamic. They love these long lasting routes. And if you can do that out of play action, that makes things a lot easier. So I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup. Texas, CJ Baxter, Jane Blue. Got to control the line of scrimmage. Got to do it with these guys. And if you're not able to do it in smart ways, guys. Guess what? There's a play clock. When that play clock is running along with the game clock, run it down to 10 seconds every time. If that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. But I believe the clock is very important in this game, and I think Texas needs to milk it. Another advantage that I see in this game, Penix is 116th in the country out of 130 quarterbacks in completion percentage when he's pressured. Michael Penix does get scared a little bit. I've seen it in the Arizona State game. I've seen it in multiple other games this year. Oregon State. That was in rain, so that's a little bit of an aberration, especially with this game being played indoors. But I think Texas, you have to be multiple in your fronts. You have to be multiple all over the field. You have to sometimes bring 7 guys. You have to. You have to at some point bring 7 guys. You have to survive it. I'm not saying do it every play, but do it 4 or 5 times. Sometimes bring 3 guys. I think your best bet at most times is dropping 7 and rushing 4. I think that's what you're going to see most times, but you have to mix it up. You have to confuse Michael Penix. And for the love of God, play press coverage. Texas is a much better team when they play press coverage because their defensive line, it allows them time to get home. Anthony Hill on third down, guys, if you haven't heard of him, freshman linebacker, fantastic player. I think this is the type of guy that's going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft in 2 years. Third down and medium plus has to be Anthony Hill time. You have to put him in pass rush situations, let him win. He's a freak athlete. He's an athlete that, honestly, Washington hasn't seen all year. Most teams haven't seen all year. The guy was the number 1 linebacker recruit in the country for a reason. In third down and medium plus, use him as a pass rusher and let the man eat. He's a freak. Another thing, guys, Washington loves to run the ball off tackle. Kind of works in this game for them. They're not going to run into Sweat and Murphy if you run off tackle, especially Sweat. Murphy can probably get there. Sweat, you saw Oklahoma do that, and he struggled a little bit. That's another thing, too. If I was Washington, I go up tempo in this game. I get that defensive front tired early and not letting them rotate. Because, guys, when you look at who we have on the interior, we have the 3 best defensive tackles that Washington would have faced based on the Pro Football Focus grade. Byron Murphy, Tavondre Sweat, and Alfred Collins are all better players than anyone in Washington has seen all year. Tire them out. Don't let them get in a rhythm. Don't let them be fresh. That's the key. And also, if I'm Washington, you want to run outside zone, don't run it to Barron Sorrell's side. Barron Sorrell is underrated. He's going to play in the NFL. He's a fantastic edge rush defender. Versus the rush. He is not great in pass. He's okay. I think he's a C guy in pass. I think he's a B+ guy in run defense. Run to Ethan Bergside. He's a freshman. He's going to be a good player. But sometimes, guys, it gets a little bit sloppy with his lane. So if you're going to run outside zone to his side. And I think that's what Washington's going to do. This is just a very interesting matchup. It really is. I'll jump back into the comments, see what you guys have to say. I think it's going to be a very good game. Texas has thrown touchdowns to 9 different receivers this year. That is a crazy stat. We have a lot of good pass catchers. I would say we're deeper at Washington in that area, but they have 3 guys that are going to play in the NFL. I think Jalen Polk, honestly, is the guy that worries me the most because you have Jahdae Barron, our nickelback, which I think is one of the best nickelbacks in the country, versus Jalen McMillan. And then you have Roma Dunze versus Ryan Watts. Ryan Watts is a 6'3" corner that can get physical at the line. He's going to win his matchup sometimes, and I think Ryan Watts is going to win our matchup sometimes. Jalen Polk, I don't know if we have an answer for. It's going to be interesting. Terrence Brooks, I don't love him, and it's going to be very interesting. Might be Malik Muhammad, and I really like Malik Muhammad. He's a fantastic freshman, but do I trust him consistently versus Jalen Polk in this type of game? Not really, so it's going to be very interesting. Would Matt shave his head for a Texas Natty win? Guys, I freaking love my hair. My number 1 fear in life is going bald. And you're going to say, oh, redhead who loves hair, da-da-da. But it's nice hair, I think. But would I shave my head? Yes, I would, because hair comes back. I have yet to experience a national championship win that I remember. I was 7 when they won it in 2005. I was depressed as hell for 2 weeks when they lost in 2009. Yes, I would shave my head for time. I'd shave my eyebrows as well. I'd shave everything. If you want me to shave my beard, my eyebrows, my hair, I'll shave it all. My eyelashes, if you want me to get rid of those, I'd do it all for a Texas national championship win. So it'd be very interesting. DK, man, you're making me want to switch to Washington. I think Washington's being slept on. People have said this and that about him. I disagree. I also think it's pretty stupid when all I hear about is the Texas secondary being bad. Listen, if you think Texas secondary is bad, Washington has the exact same metrics in yards per play, basically, and they're worse in total yards per game allowed passing. So you can't, if you're going to say one, you have to say the other as well. Yes, they do. They the only difference is, guys, do I think Michael Penix is going to run for 113 yards? No. No offense to Michael Penix. I don't think he wants to take the hits that Dillon Gabriel took in that game, and I don't think he's capable of taking those hits. I think he's a little bit more fragile. I think he also has a little bit less heart. I like Michael Penix, but he does. I've seen him play. I don't think he's as tough as Dillon Gabriel. And I don't think he's quite as good of an athlete. And I also think Jaylan Ford had his worst game ever in a Texas uniform. So I don't see him doing that either. Do I think Michael Penix could run for 30 to 40 yards? Yes. And that would be a win for Washington if he did that, because I think he gets sacked for 2 to 3, or I think he gets sacked 2 to 3 times, which will take 20 yards out of it. So he'd basically be running for 60 yards. So that'd be a very good day for Washington. Michael Penix can do that. It'd be interesting. I want a Michigan Texas finale. How fun would that be? It'd be very fun. I think, honestly, John, I think that's the matchup we want as Texas fans, for the simple fact is it's not a rematch, and it's got to be impossible to beat Nick Saban twice in a season. If we do that, I'm going to be elated. Honestly, it's going to be insane to beat the best coach of all time twice in a season with the team that I think has been slept on the whole year in Alabama, and I think they're going to feed off of that as well. So I'm rooting, honestly, for Texas Michigan one, because I think it's a slightly easier matchup for Texas. Just because we've already played them and beaten them, I think that adds fuel to the fire, and I don't want to play them again. I just don't. I hope Washington looks at the Oklahoma game. If they do, that'll be a mistake. I disagree that'll be a mistake, because Washington has better wide receivers, much better wide receivers than Oklahoma. They have a better running game than Oklahoma. So I think that's a good blueprint for them, as long as they don't count on Michael Penix running for 113 yards. But other than that, I think it's a decent blueprint. Mm-hmm. Funny you say that, John. Texas and Michigan play week 2 next year. I'm sure you already know that. I'm not telling you anything new. Yeah, there will be a lot of interesting matchups, guys. Think about it. Texas plays Michigan next week, or next year, week 2. So that'd be a rematch if we played this year in the national championship. It'd be a rematch of this year's game in week 2 if we played Alabama. If Washington wins and they play Michigan, I think they play each other next year starting in the Big Ten. I think the only one that doesn't really have any tie-in is Alabama versus Washington. Every other game has a tie-in. It'd be interesting. John, Michigan Bama will get the high C ratings, 100%. Texas will definitely carry the TV ratings in that game, and they always do well on TV ratings. But yeah, you have two of the top 5, 6 brands in college football at the Rose Bowl. Yeah, it's going to get gigantic numbers. I'll shave my wig anyway for just one Texas win. Okay, Matt confirmed he is a true Texas fan by being willing to shave his head for a natty win. LOL. I would shave everything for a Texas win. Every piece of hair on my body I would get rid of. Guys, this season has just been really fun. I haven't been able to experience anything like this, especially with you guys, because 5-7, or I believe I was here for the Tom Herman year. I totally forget when I started doing this. I was here for Tom Herman's last year. We were 7-3 COVID year. Steve Sarkisian 5-7. That was not fun. And then 8-5 last year with some heartbreaking losses. And then we've had some gut-wrenching wins this year, but I'll take the wins over the blowout losses and then the close losses. So I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy to be along for this ride. It's been really fun. It's going to be really fun moving to the SEC next year, and I think we'll have hopefully continued success. We've struggled continuing success here at Texas. I think this is built on a sturdier foundation than it was under Tom Herman, so I expect us to be pretty good next year as well. Bro, I might consider cutting off one finger down to the first knuckle for a natty. JK, unless you guys won a natty in 2014. You can't be that hungry for one. It's going to be 10 years here soon. But that's like, we competed in 2009, lost, heartbreaking, because our quarterback doesn't even get to play a whole quarter. And then 2005, I was 7. I didn't get to watch. My mom woke me up out of my bed and said we won. And that just sucked, because I first off missed the Texas championship. Second off, missed the best game ever played. And then third off, we haven't been good really since then. So it just sucks. I'm hoping we get to the national championship, but I'm going to enjoy this game either way. It's been a successful season for me. Like I said at the beginning of the year, 10-2 was always the barometer for me. And winning the Big 12, we went 11-1 in won the Big 12. I cannot complain. Anything from here on out is cake, especially because I believe we'll have other opportunities. Now, saying this, guys, I'm an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, have been for a long time, and everyone thought the same thing when Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden got to an NBA championship and said, "Oh, they'll be back, and they never got back. And I think the short story here is when you get there, capitalize on the opportunities you have because you do not know how many you get. You really don't. There's no Alabamas, there's no Georgias. That's it. Those are the two. Everyone else wins here and there every decade or so. Alabama's really the only one in the sport who year in and year out, basically every other year, you can guarantee yourself a national championship. You cannot do that for any other fan base. So my message, if I was Steve Sarkisian, this may be the only shot in your whole football life, if you go into the pros as well, that you ever get to compete for a championship. Go out there and compete as hard as you can, prepare as hard as you can, forget all the BS, forget that it's New Year's Day, forget your family, forget all of that. Compete, practice, and go out there and do the best you absolutely can because, again, life doesn't give you many opportunities like this, and you have to take advantage. So, I'm caught in that hard place of celebrating, but also wanting to get to where I think we can and should go. So, it's very hard. That's kind of the story of life, though, isn't it? So, I'm going to definitely celebrate, but I'm also going to be slightly sad or angry if we lose. And I think that's a normal feeling as well. Pretty sure I've read 2 different ESPN articles taking Washington win. If you think they're being slept on, ESPN, I would agree with. I don't take ESPN seriously for a multitude of reasons. I'm talking if you go on YouTube and type in Texas versus Washington preview, um, if you look, especially look at Texas fans and Texas people, I think Texas people are sleeping on Washington. I would agree national wise, I think they're actually probably being overrated. But our fan base in particular, it to me has shown great disrespect to Washington. I think a lot of people think it's going to be a blowout, and I just don't see that. I'll give you my prediction here in a second. Texas can beat Bama twice. Washington beat Oregon twice. Oregon doesn't have the best coach of all time. That's why I struggle with seeing us beating Bama twice. Can we? Yes. I think we match up actually very well with Alabama. I think we match up very well with Michigan. I think Washington is our worst matchup, but it'd be very hard to do that. I thought you won 3 straight with Colt McCoy. 3 straight national championships? No. I've already said I'd dye my beard blue if he won the Natty. No, John, you got to do better than that. Maize and blue right here. Got to connect them right in the middle. I would say I'd dye my hair burnt orange, but we're basically there, so I can't do that. Get used to playing teams at multiple times with 12-team playoffs and no divisions. You might play 3 times. Yeah, that is very true. It's going to be very interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. Honestly, I think the smartest thing to do, guys, for a 12-team playoff, I don't know if anyone remembers during the COVID year, I believe the Big Ten had like matchups. So 1 play 2, 3 play 4, go so on and so forth. I think it'd be smart on championship weekend for like the Big Ten and SEC to do that so you get more teams in to show how strong your conference is. Honestly, that's what I would do, but that's just me. And I think that would get more teams in for you. Horns down, Clint Moses, Oregon State. Why? Okay, Oregon State rooting for Washington. That's fair. That's fair. I was going to say, okay, here's a question, Clint. Would you root for Oregon over Texas? Would you be See, this is where I think maybe Texas fans are different from everyone else. If Oklahoma was in this game, I'm not rooting for Oklahoma because they're Big 12 or SEC or what. I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to be like, when we're in the SEC next year, if Georgia plays whoever for the national championship, I'm not rooting for Georgia because they're in the SEC. I could give 2 shits. I've never understood that. I don't understand it. I'm not a conference allegiance type person. My allegiance lies with Texas. I could give 2 shits about any other team. My second favorite team growing up, if you had to make me choose a second favorite team, was Boise State. But that's like, here's Texas up here, and then Boise State, and then everyone else on the floor. Like, my allegiance is with Texas, always will be with Texas. I could give 2 craps what else happens in the conference. I've been watching Washington's games. They do a lot of sweeps and screams to make up 100%. You see, Sark did this very early in the year, homegrown Cowboy. He likes to. They have the same offensive philosophy. It's very east west attack, and then hit you north and south. And that's another thing too. Why it's so big, Washington's offensive line versus Texas defensive line, because when they do hit you north and south, they hit you with these routes that take a very long time. So if Texas can just negate those type of routes, they could blow them out. Honestly, if they were able to get consistent pressure on when they do those routes, you have a very good chance of blowing them out because you can only throw bubble screens and hit you east and west so often. You're going to have to hit shots down the field. I fully expect them to hit some shots down the field. They're way too talented up front on the offensive line, and they're way too talented wide receiver and quarterback wise. But I fully expect Texas to win more battles versus their offensive line than their offensive line than they do versus our defensive line. That's how I feel. Matt, we will clip this video after you hit your first SEC chant. You have to shave your head again. If I hit an SEC chant on this channel, B-Bean, and you clip it, I will shave my head. I'll shave it right here live if I ever do that. I've only ever done that as a joke, just like the Texas fans did that in the Big 12 championship game to make the commissioner pissed off, which is still funny to watch 2 minutes of booing, him getting Steve Sarkisian's name wrong, and then basically being embarrassed. That's what happened there. That was funny. The question I have is, how did Washington receive the Joe Moore Award when they only averaged 85 yards per game? Yeah, but that's not through the air as well. They're a very good pass blocking unit. They're elite at that. Run blocking, I agree. They're like a C+ pass blocking, and they're not going to give it to Michigan with their best offensive lineman hurt and giving it to them. I think this would have been the 3rd year in a row, if I'm not wrong. So they just weren't going to do that. So I think Washington, honestly, I think they're a top 5 unit. I don't think they're the best, but they're definitely the best or second best offensive line we played all year. I think Alabama and Washington have the 2 best offensive lines we played all year. Texas did an SEC chant after beating Georgia. Yeah, I did. Honestly, I didn't hear that. If we did, again, making fun of the SEC. If Texas starts doing SEC chants in the SEC, I'm done. I'm done. Stop doing it. It's stupid. If you want to make fun of them, I think it's funny. Once we are in the SEC, stop. That's how I feel. The only thing I remember about that game is Michael Dixon winning the MVP of that game and Tom Herman going like this to Drew Lock. That's all I remember. Louisville or USC 0.02 winning this game. I don't know what that does. The game start like right now? I don't understand the 0.02. With all the opt-outs, Louisville's going to win. This game means more to me, guys. If you're going to bet on bowl games during bowl season, bet on the team it means more to, especially in the bigger games. Because let's be honest here, USC doesn't give a shit about this bowl. Louisville does. Bet on them. Just like I think Missouri versus Ohio State. Marvin Harrison, respect, dude. Seriously, respect. I love that guy playing in your bowl game. I really do. So he is a difference maker. He may be the reason Ohio State could beat Missouri because Missouri does care more, but he's such a freak, such a good player that I could see Ohio State winning that game because of him. That setup doesn't add games. It just creates a better system of crown champs. And these mega conferences, so many teams won't face each other in the regular season. That is true too. It's going to be interesting if the SEC decides to go to pods, because then you will probably have new matchups in the SEC championship game. But yeah, it is cool because you'll see bigger matchups, better matchups. And you also see interesting 12-team playoffs. Hamasira Marv is not playing. Okay, Missouri's winning then. Oh, yeah. Louisville's winning that game. That's what I said. If it means more, just bet on it. I'm trying to think of other games like that. It's going to be very interesting. I think Noah Brown will be interesting. It's crazy to me how Ohio State have turned on Kyle McCord and then started to elevate Noah Brown. I just don't see why. I don't know how Ohio State fans feel about that. I think Ryan Day has mismanaged this situation terribly, honestly. I do. If it was close, you should have gone with the younger guy, first off. And 2, if you really believed in Noah Brown, you would have inserted him in the middle of the season. I just don't understand that, but that's my 2 cents. Read my comment above the one you just read, Matt. Oh, I know. Marv isn't playing. Who gets fired first, Lincoln Riley or Brent Venables? That's hard because they're both going into very good conferences. I didn't look at USC's recruiting class. Obviously, I keep a closer eye on Oklahoma. I don't think Brett Venables gets fired before Lincoln Riley. I think there's more allegiance there. I think just because he was the defensive coordinator on some very good Oklahoma teams, he gets a little bit of leeway. I think Lincoln Riley, if anyone gets fired, he's going to get fired first. That's my opinion. Lincoln BV will get a shot after the SEC. I agree with that as well. I'll wait for that again. Sorry, Hummus here. There's more comments than I'm used to, so I appreciate that, guys. Let's do this real quick. Let's preview or not. Let's predict it. So, prediction. I think Texas is going to be able to control the clock. I think Texas is going to be able to hit timely shots when they need to. And I think Washington's going to be fine in this game. I don't think they're going to be elite. I don't think they're going to put up crazy numbers. At the end of the day, I think Sweat and Murphy are just too much to handle for the offensive line for Washington. I think they cause too much disruption. I think they cause Washington to be one-dimensional. I think Texas is able to control the game a little bit on the ground and enough to be able to milk the clock and score some points. At the end of the day, if this game goes past 35 points, I like Washington, but I don't think it does for them to score 35 points, but I don't think they do. I think Texas wins this game 34-30. I'm basically betting right on Vegas. Vegas, I believe, has this at 64.5, and I think they have Texas at 4.5. I think Washington does barely cover that spread, and I think it goes slightly under. I think if this game goes over by more than 3 to 4 points, I think Washington wins this game. If this is a 41-38 game, Washington's going to win. If this is a 34-30, 30-27, 27-24, Texas wins because I think Texas was able to neutralize Washington. And I think that's going to be the matchup, guys. I think it's the Washington offense versus the Texas defense. I think Texas is going to score 30 points. Texas scored 30 points on everyone except one team. And in big games, they do very well. So I expect Texas to score 30. Can Washington score more than that? It's going to be very interesting. I think it's going to be a very good game. I think it's going to go multiple ways. I think if there's going to be a blowout, it's going to be Texas because Texas is better on the offensive line and defensive line slightly. But I think it's going to be a really good game. And I think both these games are going to be very good. I think it's going to be very entertaining television. I think it's the best playoff we could have had. And I know people have hated the Florida State thing, but if we're rooting for the best matchups, the committee got it right. Let's be honest here. But they're going to be fun. They're going to be very fun. I think it's the best playoff we could have wished for. Texas 37, Washington 34. That's right on the line of me. If that becomes that type of scoring game, I think Washington wins. I really do. That's right on that line for me, DK. I have a feeling Texas is going to want to win this game slowly, steadily, methodically, and with the running game. I think when you were going to have a efficient game, I don't think he's going to have a monster game. And I don't think he needs to. I think Michael Penix is going to have a monster game, and he's fully capable of that. If Michael Penix went out there and went 35 of 45 for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, I wouldn't be surprised. But that's what it's going to take. I really believe that because I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball. I just don't. I think Dylan Johnson could have some success in the screen game and the pass game because I do think you can attack our linebackers in space passing and our safeties passing. But I just don't see it in between the trenches running the football or even outside tackle running the football, which they like to do. Had a similar idea on pairing off the teams on conference championship game weekend, eliminate one regular season game, play a 4-team conference tournament, and pair everyone off the last weekend. That's something similar. I totally agree with that. I think that makes more sense for the sport. I think it's more fun product. I think it's fun to watch. So I like that. Bama 41-24. Bama's not scoring that many points. Bama has a ceiling, guys. Go look at their games. Their ceiling is basically 28 points. That's what they score. They're going to score 24 to 28 points. Can Michigan score 30 points? It's kind of the same thing. I think if Washington scores 40, they win. I think if Michigan scores 30, they win. And they may not even need 30. I may move that down. If Michigan can score 28, I think they beat Alabama. If Washington score 40, I think they beat Texas. But if they don't hit that number, they're not winning the game. I just don't see that happening. I think both the teams they're playing, I think Alabama is slightly better on the line. Slightly. I said slightly than Michigan. And I think, except the defense line, I will say that. I think Michigan's slightly better. But I think offensive line-wise, I think Alabama's better, especially with Zach Zinter being hurt. And I think Texas is slightly better on the offensive defensive lines than Washington. And that's why I believe it's going to be higher scoring for Washington to win. And I think for Michigan to win, you're going to have to score 28. I don't see Alabama scoring more than 27 points. I just don't. I think Michigan's defense, especially their secondary, is very good. So if I had to predict that game, I'll predict that game. I think Michigan's going to win. I think Michigan wins 26-23. I think it's a good game. I think Milroe is going to have his moments, but Washington or Alabama, for whatever reason, guys, has a quarter where they just completely struggle. In doing that, if Michigan can take advantage, let's say it's the second quarter, for example, it's kind of random with Alabama. It doesn't matter the quarter. They just have a quarter where they struggle. If Michigan can outscore them 10-0 in that quarter, they win the game. That's what it takes. Now, if Alabama struggles and doesn't score, then all of a sudden Michigan does the same thing. Alabama's going to win. But I think Michigan will be able to do that. I think this is the best Michigan team since 1997, the most complete team. I think they win 26-23. I think Texas wins 34-30, and I think we get Texas versus Michigan in the national championship game. And hopefully, John and I can discuss that on here. Okay, Bam or B Bean. LSU has one of the worst defenses in the country. I don't give a shit what they put up on LSU. Kentucky's okay. I'll give you that. But that's one game. I'm talking about, go look at their schedule. Texas, Auburn. I'm trying to think of the other games that I've seen them play. No, they did not play Missouri. Georgia. There's countless other games. They don't score that many points. They just don't. And a lot of that in the Kentucky game was defensive turnovers. I don't think J.J. McCarthy is going to have a shit show of a game like Devin Leary did in that game. What was the prediction for John? I don't know what he said. I don't know if he left a prediction. Every service has Michigan by 10 plus, from College Ball Nerds to ESPN. All have Michigan winning, which seems weird to me. If you look at the data, guys, if you look at models, Michigan's favored by 10 plus. But I also find it interesting in both these games, the money is heavily on, I believe it, at least at first, it was heavily on Texas and heavily on Michigan, and the lines have not moved. That should tell you a lot right there, guys, that they believe Texas and Michigan are the two better teams that they'll play in the national championship. I don't know if the money is as heavy as it is on Texas as it is on Michigan. It was like 90% money on Michigan, and it hasn't moved. That should tell you a lot. Ralph, LSU is one of the 5 worst defenses in the country. They are terrible. They do not compare to Michigan. Come on, guys. Yeah, exactly. There you go. LSU's god awful on defense. Michigan isn't god awful on defense. If the Natty's Texas, Michigan, is the entire country rooting for Texas, I don't know, because people hate Texas, so I don't know how to answer that. I saw that the College Football Nerds, Ralph Wolf, their model heavily favored the team up north, but they both picked Alabama. They don't trust their own model. Yeah, I saw that as well. I respect those guys. They are SEC biased. Anyone can see that. They say some stuff that does, because it doesn't add up at all logically, some of the stuff they've said. But I can see Alabama winning. Like I said, I think Michigan wins 26-23. I think Texas wins 34-30. I think they're both very good games. I just trust J.J. McCarthy not to make the mistake that Jalen Milroe is going to make. I think Jalen Milroe is going to turn the ball over in a key spot. That's what I think is going to happen. I just don't trust Jalen Milroe throwing the ball. And there's only so much you can do, guys, with him running. There is. Michigan, in about a quarter, will figure out what to do with him running if they already haven't figured it out. If it's not moving, it's even money coming in. But it's not, though, DK. The money is heavily on Michigan. The money has heavily been on Michigan. So Texas, Washington, I'm not so sure about, but like 87% of the money's on Michigan. So that's why and the line hasn't moved. So I think Michigan's going to win. Yeah, LSU's defense is god awful. And yeah, they should have scored more. But I appreciate you guys being here. Again, guys, can you please hit that like button? Please subscribe down below. Go over to the SEC channel and subscribe to that. Go over to the Big 12 channel and subscribe there. Again, if you're going to go to a game too, guys, go to ticketsmarter.com. Don't be dumb. Be smarter. Go to ticketsmarter.com. Type a code BIG for $10 off a purchase of $100 or more. Type a code BIG20 for a purchase of $20 or more, or $300 more, sorry, at ticketsmarter.com. Again, BIG for $10 off a purchase of $100 or more, and Big 20 for $20 off a purchase of $300 or more. I really appreciate that, guys. Hit that like button and subscribe down below. Matt, Bama fans will be expecting your apology next week. I'll apologize if I'm wrong. I'm not saying Alabama can't win the game. I think there's a ceiling. I don't think they're scoring over 28 points in this game. 28 may be enough to win this game. That's why I said 26-23 Michigan. And that's why I think 34-30 for Texas. Like I said, I think there's a number Alabama has to hit to where Michigan just can't. And I don't think Michigan's hitting 30 points versus Alabama. So I think if they get to 30, they're going to win the game. Just like I don't think Texas will put up enough points in a shootout versus Washington. If Washington gets to 40, I think they win. Because that means it'd be a back-and-forth passing game. And I don't want to get in that game with Washington. Hero, yep, just seems weird. The models, ESPN has Michigan winning 33-16. That's crazy. 17 points. That's a lot. 41. I could see that as well. Again, guys, thank you for being here with me tonight. Hit that like button, subscribe down below. And if I'm wrong, you'll tell me Sunday morning, Saturday night. I really appreciate it, guys. This, again, has been a Bleeding Burnt Orange edition here on Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe down below. Go over to the SEC channel, do the same thing. Big 12 channel, do the same thing. Hook 'em, guys. I'll see you Saturday night, Sunday morning for the post-game show. I always appreciate it.